Hi there. It was a week ago since I did the last video, and I can't say that uh, yeah, well, as always, I don't really have that much of an intention. Or of course, I have an intention overall with these videos, but this particular is well, it's usual, just continuing exploring what presenting ideas and helping yourself conceptualize new knowledge and yeah, all that. But of course, there is always a lot of things on my mind, as is of course the case for everybody to some extent, for sure. But it's circling mostly about, well, I have had somewhat a different way of living recently, with Christmas and all that and so forth. And now it's middle of January, or soon it's, well, yeah, in the middle of January, and I try to get back to the more normal routines and so forth, but there are still lots of things that I have to think about. It's an exam, and it's yeah, choosing courses and thinking about the future, if I should start to take a job instead of studying and so on and so forth. But that's more further in the future, but it's still on my radar, so to speak. And yeah, but what's mostly on my mind still is learning, for sure, and also how to optimize just my day and so forth, but more not the usual topic. Of course, it's still the same emphasis of really considering well what you do on your day and so forth, but in that discussion, it's I'm more what I have to go deeper with, that I have not done recently, is to, because to be honest, I felt quite pressured, or yeah, my mind does not really seem to work as it should be, and I don't feel as well as I did in the later half of the autumn. And I think there could be lots of reasons, but one reason could just simply be that I enjoy being alone. I enjoy minding my own business, and because I lose momentum on the topics that I usually try to, like, for example, the conclusions that I get to in these videos. I, for first part, I just I lose the sort of continuation of the insights I come to in these videos, and also all the other things that I do during the days that explore my thinking. There's so many other things when you're with other people. You have to take them into consideration, how you navigate your day, and it just so much happens when you're with other people, and you're really not focused. And you could say, yeah, holidays are good, but for me, well, I shouldn't say that or some aspect of it, that I'm not saying that I necessarily regret it, but I think I should have focused more on, it's as if that was my non vacation, and my vacation is now really when like my because when I'm alone I feel it's like I'm getting burned out during vacations and recovered during non-vacations sort of, and it's but to be honest I'm not really doing that much. I mean we're doing things, but it's just the things happens all the time. I don't. It seems it take many hours to really get into like all the thoughts that you can have. If you have like 2 hours, and then someone says, "Well, I don't know really, but it's feels at least when I'm with other people, I'm just there is something that's off. I can't get deep into what I want to do. But and I don't know why that is really. And it should be added also that it's not only that, it's also that I did not sleep well during and that I've seen have quite a large impact on how I work. And that's probably the biggest explanation, because I've always seen that when I don't sleep well for a long time or just for one night, I do not work as well, and it seems to be quite rigid evidence and consensus on that sleep is not well. Some people say cut down on sleep, like Arnold Schwarzenegger says something like if you need more than 5 or 6 hours of sleep, then sleep faster. But I think there are I don't know really, but I don't think I should cut down on sleep, but I do think that some people might not need as much. But anyway, so sleep is an issue, and I don't want to get into it too much because it's something that I want it to work so that I can focus on other things, but I shouldn't neglect it because it is an important problem. And but if I just it's quite interesting also that it did not happen when because I've been drinking coffee and taking I've been mentioning now and then, but I've been on a nootropic that is quite it's a mixture of lots of nootropics, and usually the thing is that you should be careful to just mixing things, but this is quite high level research backed nootropic team that is behind this. So, and when I say that it's quite high level, I really mean high level. I'm really picky on what I buy and put into myself, but we all could all be wrong, but I'm really picky. So it's a good thing, I think. It's expensive, but the thing is, I used it continuously during the autumn, most part, especially in the end, and it worked well. And I felt the effects. I think, well, of course, I felt the effects, but issue is how much of it. How much had it an impact on my whole life? That's the really thing I want to. But anyway, during the holiday or the vacation or Christmas and so forth, I did not take it. I just happened to. No, I don't know exactly why I decided to not, but I'm determined to go back to it Actual first time today. But and that's the odd thing that it happened when I removed it, but I wouldn't go so far as to say I get worse sleep when I stop with the supplement, because basically that supplement earlier it's been the reverse. I've hard to sleep when taking it. So and you could say it's the change, and yeah, could be, but one thing I'm contemplating more is that, because I do think coffee have some influence in this too. Coffee, I do think is quite well, I'm not sure, but I don't want to talk about this, to be honest. I think it's quite mundane, but because yeah, I just had coffee both before and after, so I just continued, and so that's why I suspect. But I do think that maybe cutting down on coffee, because I'm not sure that I slept that well. Also during what's it called? Oh no, I actually think I know why I slept worse, because on the later part of autumn I messed up my circadian rhythm in some sense, because I tried to experiment somewhat, just say that, and I switched my, what's it called, sleeping pattern. So basically I got to sleep at 11 or 12, and so it's not that strange that I had a difficulty sleeping between 10 and 12, even though I did try to get back to 8 on several occasions, but I guess doing that at the same time as changing milieu and eating habits, and yeah, and also for sure alcohol was a part. That's one thing that I suspect that messed things up, because I did drink alcohol on, not large amounts at all, but did drink it every other day or so, and I could feel that it was not only sleep, it was like my whole system in some sense. Not meaning, when I say system, I mean like not specifically the that system, but I mean my whole like body. Something started to not work as it had to, like when you don't get enough sleep. So maybe that was just the thing, but in connection with having to, because I think it's not only sleep thing. I do think there is something to, for me specifically, or some people are probably different, but when I'm in a milieu and an environment where it's happening a lot, and I'm not really, how should I call it, really but at the same time I'm not sure. I'm going back and forth on this, because well, there is another issue, speaking of systems, because I actually do think that I felt that this is somewhat personal, but I don't mind really, when I'm eating a lot, and when I'm having, and also actually when I don't sleep good, but when I drink a lot of wine and coffee, that's have an issue, that have an impact how my how my stomach takes it, and it seems like when that happens, a lot of things get not as good as I want it to be. So drinking wine, that was what I did, not beer and so forth. Because why I'm bringing this up is because when I do am around people that and have a really good time, and I don't say it was bad now, but it wasn't like there have been occasions where I just like, and then we actually drink when I've been drinking a lot, and that's not the usual thing. I usually do not drink that much, but when I've actually had a 1.5 year ago when a whole week just being out sailing and drinking a lot, and then I mean really a lot. Then I didn't have any, despite drinking, for sure not as much coffee as I drink now, but it was still a lot of alcohol. So the alcohol part is not probably as important, and even not even thinking about being around people, because then when I was way more social and way more new people that I haven't met before. So it's not only the social, like being around people and doing stuff that drains you, and well, at least drains me. It's also something about, I don't know what it is, but it could just be if you're enjoying yourself in social circumstances, it heals you, and if you don't, it damages you. I don't know. And on top of that, like, because it is true that wine is more, or I felt that wine is not as good for the stomach and so forth as it's sort of like coffee. It's yeah. And also since I have sort of, but yeah, I don't know how much I should go into this. This is somewhat personal, but not. Yeah, it's just some issues that I'm thinking about, but other things that are. So the thing for me now is really that I have to, and I want to, sort of. I think I'll sit for the rest of the time. I want to get clear about what I need to do in order to get back on track, so to speak. And to be honest, going back to this, I felt that when my stomach, my system doesn't work, I don't work. And when I don't sleep, I don't work. So when my stomach and my sleep does not work, I have to fix it. I just have to realize that I can't just get over. I have to harp on that point again, I guess. So what I have to do in the coming days and so forth, I just have to. Well, the first part is not eat too much and not eat. Like if I'm not hungry, I shouldn't eat, and I continually do this mistake. Really, actually, I did it today, just before this video, but it was not necessarily a bad decision. I'm not sure, because I had exercised quite not really hard, but somewhat hard, and it's not right. You should eat after exercise, and I felt how it is to not. Sorry to lose the track, but the thing is, I'm quite tired, and this is a symptom of just me not being able to, like, my stomach and my everything. Sorry, I sound really depressed, and I do want to continue, and I had in mind to get into more interesting topics and so forth, but I sense that the best thing for me to now is to rest and recover, and to yeah, rest and recover, and get time, and don't eat too much, and eat only when hungry, and not more than like, and eat well for sure. But that's another thing. I think I eat good enough. And that's basically due to, if it wasn't for the bunny, I would spend a lot on like good food, but I will settle with great food, like, or good food, not perfectly like, I mean, but yeah, I've decided to, like, for one thing I've decided is that and it could actually be because I see a trend here actually that is common for in the middle of the autumn when I tested on, and that could be another thing actually, because meditation is something that I did do it during the vacation, but it happened to, I lost some days and so forth, and also in addition to that, as I said, when in the beginning of the autumn when I skipped meditation, I just ate a lot and did a lot of other things, even neglected most exercise, or at least moving and so forth. But I did exercise 2 times a week and so forth, but I cut down on a lot, and drank a lot of coffee actually. But I realized my sleep suffered, and I don't remember how my stomach took it, but I did remember that my sleep suffered quite severely, and I did not feel that good at all. It's similar to now, but in a sense, I want to say not as bad, but in some sense, it is. It's like I'm not as. I think I have the meditation part better under control now, so I'm not as affected mentally by it. But I think my system, in some sense, is as bad. So my body is as unhealthy as back then, but I can take it better because I'm meditating. I think that's the issue. To get back on track, and I think this is actually one of the major things here, because eating is yeah, like I've been experimenting with fasting and so forth, not like long fast, but intermittent fasting and so forth. And when I said intermittent, it's confusing. Like, I'm not like 5-2 diet and so forth. I did eat like 6 hours, no, a window for 6 hours for quite a long time, and sometimes 8 hour. Actually doing it back and forth still, but it not doesn't it, like, I'm not even hungry in the morning oftentimes. But now when I take in the supplement, or this nootropic, it should be taken early on the day, and I should eat to it, so I have to eat something in the morning, and it's harder for me to keep up the hours. Otherwise I actually would do intermittent fasting, in the sense of eating like for 6 to 8 hours, but this has the negative impact of that when you do that, you have to eat more during the time that you're eating. So, and that's not really that great. But so it, I don't really mind that much. I think the main issue is, and I think this is connected to like food that tastes great and so forth, that, and I've been doing this argument before, but I think I want to get back to it, and it's quite trivial. and I suspected that it's not how much it is to it, and I've been sort of skeptical to it sometimes, to, or at least the conclusion I draw from it, because, but the arguments is simply that, and it's obvious that the first part of it, that we are not evolutionary, are adapted to have food everywhere, and therefore we do eat a lot of food when it's sea, so we overeat basically because we're programmed to eat when there is food. Our evolutionary environment have programmed us to be like that. But the thing is also that we haven't had as tasty food as we have, and that is also something that makes it that makes us eat more than we would, even though if we would have had a lot of food, but it wasn't as tasty as it is, we wouldn't still eat as much as we actually do today because it's so tasty. And I think there is a danger for me because since I'm exercising and so forth, I keep my weight. But there's another thing that impacts here. If I still eat as much, if I'm still as affected by the sort of overeating mechanism of there's a lot of food and it's tasty, I for sure minimizes the effect of laying down on fat, because I'm partly because I'm not have a tendency to do it. It's just in my family. I don't put on fat that much, but and it's also that I'm exercising quite a lot, moving and so forth. So I don't get that bad effect, but I'm not sure that we're really adapted for putting as much food in ourselves as we do. And even though I'm exercising, I mean, I'm for sure moving as much as well, as many of my ancestors, or I mean, like even in the evolutionary environment. I don't know exactly how much, but I'm moving a lot, quite a lot at least, and but um, um, and you could say that, well, if that's the case, you're not really overeating in that sense if you keep your weight and so forth. But I think actually I do. It's possible to eat a lot, because this is the thing that I'm going into. It's that we're not evolutionary adapted for, and it's connected to fasting. We're not evolutionary adapted to eat that much all the time, and that in that much amount. And to be honest, I actually think that I heard somewhere, or I think it's quite admitted, that it's not calories in and calories consumed only that matters. It's also what type of calories if you put on fat. So I'm probably, the reason I'm not putting on as much fat is not only because I'm exercising, it's also because I don't eat what's it called, sugar, for fast carbohydrates. So that's good, but the side effect is that I can eat a lot without getting fat, and that is probably not that good. I counteract it with training, but it's still the fact that I do eat too much. And I don't see when I do eat too much, because I won't put on fat, because I won't absorb everything like sugar. And I actually have a quite large, I suspect that because I have some, and not to say issues with my stomach, I'm not like, it's some of these things are quite sensitive, and for me it's not the sensitive because it's not the later part of the bowel system, so to speak, that is problem for me. It's the upper part. So it's really when I'm eating and so forth. So, but yeah, but or at least, well, I, for now that's the case. But I do have noticed that when I do eat too much, things is not going as well as I want to be, even when it's going out, so to speak. But so I think one should be quite, and I think it's quite. There are lots of people into fasting, and there is also the discussion about what's it called, autophagy or something, that you sort of recharge, you even eliminate bad cells and create new cells when you are fasting, and I think that's also true for. Well, it's also generally true that you. Well, I'm not an expert, but it feels, it all, both feels this as if my stomach is resting when I'm not eating, and I also heard that that's the case, that you should rest from eating food, and that's why fasting is good, and that might, you know, why intermittent fasting is good and so forth. And like for me, I think that the worst mistake I do is that I eat when I'm not hungry, or I eat more, I eat strategically. Because sometimes I think that, well, if I'm not eating a lot now, I won't sleep well. Or if I'm not eating enough now, I will. Like, for example, when I'm intermittent fasting, I think, okay, I have 6 hours, so I try to eat a lot. And on top of that, you're not as hungry when you're intermittent fasting. But it would probably be better to sort of, I don't think, like for example, let's say that it's really hard to, like for longevity, the best thing you can do is minimize or reduce 40% of calorie intake, but nobody does it because it's quite painful, it's not that pleasant. The other thing you can do is intermittent fasting. That's sort of the next thing that is yeah, good, and it's not that bad because you get used to it. And so what I think is that that the most important thing is that not is to eat not too large meals generally. I think that's the most important, and I've definitely not been doing that well on that topic, because I had a relapse sort of. I had a period after that I just eat a lot and I drink a lot of coffee and I did meditate. Then for quite some while I restricted sort of how much I ate, and I did everything right. But after a while I started to drink coffee again, and it still worked quite well. And I drank quite a lot of coffee, and it still worked well. And then I started to eat much more, not as much as earlier, just eating tasteful thing, but still a lot. And it didn't, and it worked quite well. But I think I suffered the consequences of it now during the vacations and so forth. So I think there is quite a lot to gain in avoiding eating too much, at least for me. Um, so that was into that subject somewhat, and I'm quite tired, as I said, so I won't continue, but see you next time.